morning, good afternoon, good evening, namaste, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 275th episode. In the last 274 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with more than 5,000 school leaders and education experts on this very forum where they've shared their ideas, opinions, innovation, and what all new are they doing in the education space. So, a very warm welcome to all of you to this very platform of the Blub World Web Talks. You'll all be happy to know that this is currently the world's longest running education innovation roundtable, and we have reached the 275th episode. There's no such roundtable anywhere as of now on education. So before we start this session, I would like to extend a very big thank you to the person who made this possible, who, typically today's web talk is because of her. Thank you to Honorable Angel Khanyile, the Member of Parliament from South Africa. She was the one who reached out to the World Teen Parliament team and said that, can we have a discussion where we could bring out some of the best points or some of the amazing things that people might be doing across countries to reduce teen pregnancies. And so what we did was we thought, let's bring in some education leaders, some policy makers, and let's see what are the thoughts that they bring forth. So before we start the session, just some ground rules. Think of the Blub World Web Talks like a speaking sprint. It's not a speaking marathon. So the speaking time is limited to 3 minutes. Once your speaking time is over, you'll see my hand up in the air, which simply means I'm asking you to conclude in the next 30 seconds. And once that time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity crisp and entertaining for everyone. So we'll now be starting the session, and to, give it the right kind of tone, let me invite the individual who has made it possible. A very warm welcome to the Honorable Member of Parliament, Angel Khanyile from the Democratic Alliance from South Africa. Ma'am, over to you for opening and starting the 275th episode of the Blub World Web Talks, where we talk about what countries did to reduce teen pregnancies. We'll be adding more context and ideas to it as we go forward. Over to ma'am for opening today's session. A very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Daksh, and greetings to everyone. And thank you so much for allowing us to have this discussion. I feel that this discussion is very important because as a country right now, we are seriously grappling with the issue of teenage pregnancies. If you look at our statistics, the numbers keep going up, and we are trying to make some interventions here and there. But I thought through you, I'll truly appreciate it if we can have discussions with other countries that were able to keep their sketch on teenage pregnancy, so that they can share with us how did they make it. Because if they have policies that are working, we're more than willing to explore those policies and implement them in South Africa. Our pregnancy rate does not necessarily start at a teenage level, though we call it a teenage pregnancy. It starts, the number of people that are giving birth. It is from 10-year-old. And that will tell you that if a 10-year-old is giving birth, there's higher chances that they've fallen pregnant when they were 9 years old. And that is a child, that is not even a teenager. And then that is 10 to 12. Then we have 12 to 19. And that is where our teenagers are. And the numbers are just so high. Even the recent stat that we have received now for July indicates that the numbers keep increasing. So I truly appreciate the countries that were able to deal with this, to share their policies, to share the method that they have used so that we can also explore them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving the World Teen Parliament an opportunity to bring people together on talking about something this very serious. Um, this is a challenge that is faced by nearly all the countries on the face of the earth. If you want to put some data metrics to it, you'll get a lot of information about how this typically deprives. It's not about morality, it's about inequality. When you bring in the right kind of economic resources, the educational resources, teen pregnancies change or the trends change. So it is simply not about a nation's morality or a parent's morality, it's more about inequality. So for a policymaker to see this, it's very painful. And when you don't have a solution, it's even more painful. And we are very thankful that the next guest for today is someone who comes from a country which has the lowest teen pregnancy rates and some of the most successful programs to control teen pregnancies. Let's now hear to the honorable former MP from the Netherlands, Miss Faith Bruyning. Netherlands currently is the nation that has the least or the lowest teen pregnancy rates globally, 3.2 per thousand teens. They have done some amazing stuff around, sex education, age appropriate content. The Dutch model is right now celebrated specifically on this thing. So let's hear from Faith that what are her inputs to this complete conversation. Faith, a very warm welcome to you and thank you for taking out the time for this.
Good morning, everyone. What an honor to start, and what an introduction. Well, today I want to talk to you about something close to my heart: how we in the Netherlands are working to prevent teenage pregnancies, and why this matters to all of us. Now, let me start with this. Teenage pregnancy is not just a teenage issue, it's a social issue. It's about education, it's about the kind of support we offer at home, in our schools, in our communities, but also the kind of support we offer as government. And it's about creating a future where every young person, especially young girls, feels empowered to make choices that are right for them. In the Netherlands, we've made progress. We start sex education early from around age 10. And it's not just about biology, but about relationships, consent, love, respect, and saying no. That's really important. We make sure contraceptives are accessible and discussed openly without shame. Our schools include these topics in the curriculum as part of a broader mission to raise healthy, informed citizens. But education doesn't stop at school. It continues at home with parents who are willing to talk honestly with their children. That takes courage, but it also takes tools. So we support parents with programs that help them have these conversations without judgment, but with love and understanding. I remember when I was a child, I was like 12, and my grandma, who I love really dearly, just went to the library, got me a book about sex education, and gave me the book. And that was the talk. So in the Netherlands, we are trying to improve that by making the talk more openly and accessible. We also work in youth work, community centers, and online spaces because we know young people don't only listen in classrooms, they are watching, listening, and learning everywhere. What do I think? Let me be real with you. This is not just about reducing a number. This is about raising up a generation of confident, informed, powerful young people. It's about giving girls, especially those growing up in poverty or in vulnerable situations, the tools to dream bigger than their circumstances. I believe we must go even further. We need to listen more. We need to invest in role models who look like them, speak their language, and understand their reality. And we need to fight shame because no girl should feel like her body, her choices, or her questions are a secret. In my work, I've met so many brilliant young people who just needed one person to say, I see you, you're worth it, your voice matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Faith. And I think a lot of this discussion really depends on the societal structure. Does the society really, let people have a conversation about it without getting stigmatized? And when, you want to introduce a topic like this in conservative societies and at school level or a preteen level, what we are talking about, the challenge completely transforms itself. The society in itself becomes the foe in the whole discussion, and we are not able to help people even when we want to do it. The conversation is not so easy and not so open in different communities. So the reason why we have a different variety of school principals on this very call from different countries is this: because for each country, having this conversation, or what we call the talk, the birds and the bees talk, is a very difficult step for conservative societies, including in India and many more countries. So let me now invite some school principals who can share their opinion about this. What is the approach that they take when they have to face a lot of opposition from the parents, from the society at large? How do they tackle this topic? And when they see this problem, what is it that they might be doing? So, a very warm welcome to Dr. Abha Jadhav, who's the director for New Horizon Public School from Airoli, Mumbai, Maharashtra, India. Dr. Abha, what are the things that you try to implement in your institutions? Is it easy to have this conversation in a class in India? Or how does the conversation really look like? Or what are the ideas that you can give to our Honorable MP in South Africa? Is what is it that they can do to improve? Over to you.
Good morning and thank you, Daksh. Good morning to everyone. When we talk about India, definitely the topic is very conservative, and teachers and youngsters and even parents, they hesitate to talk with children about the same. So when it comes to school, definitely it becomes our moral responsibility to see that we can pass on the message with little bold words and with bold gestures, so that even the message goes clearly to teens that okay, we are talking about something serious. So if I talk about my institution, definitely we are very much alert on this part, that how children are teens, they are moving around in the school campus. And even after the dispersal, when school gets over, I make sure I take round to the half a kilometer right and left premises of out of the school on road, see that all children have departed from the campus and the nearby areas, so that nothing goes wrong. But definitely teens are teens, they make their own plans, they are much smarter than us, and they make ways to move around and hang around. So what we think is, first thing is to give a proper awareness, and clearly, no, nowadays teens are very much open to discuss all these things. They are not ashamed of all these. We think that okay, how we will be talking to teens, but teens are very much comfortable. And once we gear up with that courage to speak to them, it becomes really very easy and a healthy discussion. So many a times I do these things with my ninth graders and 10th graders, because 11th and 12th, they are much, much mature, and they develop that maturity to understand what is correct and what is not. But when we talk about ninth and 10th, they are little distracted with all these kind of things because of their hormonal changes and all. And now it has gone to even lower grades, 7th graders, 8th graders. They are also becoming part of this, and they are much, much curious to know about all these things. So what I feel is that if we tell them clearly what things are and how it should go, right, we should guide about the goods and bads of all these things going into a relationship. So we tell them that beta, it's not bad to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, but then this time, these years are basically for your career progress, so work on this, keep that aside for a few years, and you can once you are settled, you can again focus on your relationship building. So and definitely we tell them that if you go for all these things at this stage, so even not, you are not mentally prepared, you are not emotionally prepared, not even physically prepared to go further in this relationships, right? So better not to even think of those things. But definitely, as we are seeing, the number of teen pregnancy is there in many parts of our country, but still I will say that it has reduced a lot. As per National Family Health Survey, it shows that it has gone 6.8% of our young women aged 15 to 19, they are mothers now, right? And
On the first 3 minutes over, but we'll try to come back to you during the open floor. Some important points that you made, that, you know, education is one of the most important tools that's being used across the globe to tackle this challenge. But what we can see that even in this conversation, for an adult, it feels difficult to use the right terminology. So it becomes very difficult for a teacher to be able to teach this within their classrooms. The problem is, how do we really address that elephant in the room? It's very difficult to have this conversation in Indian schools. What I have seen, since I come from India, I know they use discipline to put them in the right place. But the problem is, discipline does not bring long-term success, specifically when we talk of teen pregnancies or early pregnancies. Policing might not be the solution. The solution could be openness or something. Let's now, go to the next guest. I would like to welcome Honorable Member of Parliament Alex Mattia Rogers from Sierra Leone. He's also the chairman on Defense and National Security Committee for Sierra Leone. Specifically talking about Sierra Leone, in Sierra Leone, it has been seen that if the investment on education increases, or if the number of secondary schools increase, there's a percentage point reduction in teen motherhood by nearly 8 to 9%. So education is directly correlated to reducing teen pregnancies. And that can clearly be seen in Sierra Leone. So I would request Honorable Alex Rogers to share with us that is his country doing in it. Is there there's some ideas that could be replicated in other countries as well? The way Faith mentioned some of the things that she's doing, they have done in Netherlands. So let's hear Mr. Honorable Alex Rogers, a member of parliament from Sierra Leone. Sir, over to you. What are your thoughts on this topic? That how did you, or as a country, what are you doing to reduce teen pregnancies? You're on mute, sir. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Good morning to you. It is very early this morning to have me hosted, and it is very important discussion. And you will agree with me that the teenage pregnancy remains a very critical barrier to educational attainment, gender equality, and of course, economic development. And this is a situation that globally we look at it. And in Sierra Leone, you agree with me that we have adopted a radical inclusion. Maybe you may have heard about that policy, a radical inclusion, and everything gears toward education, the women's empowerment, and within our laws, within our legislations. In fact, we are now pushing towards to have a joint parliamentary oversight mechanism that we ensure about this type of menace in our society, teenage pregnancy. So legislations have been put on place, and you remember the First Lady of this country has launched a very impressive program, and Hands Off Our Girls. Hands Off Our Girls also work along in reducing and female teenage, or what we call adolescent pregnancies in our society. So a coherent legislations, a coherent laws, norms are put in place to have this situation being reduced or minimized in our society. But everything boils down on sexuality education and the empowerment of women, creating the forum for women's empowerment, and to have that kind of education put in place, for the women, healthcare, and of course the contraception, the accessibility to contraception, safe and accessible or affordable contraception. So these are some of the mechanisms that we have put in place with a very coherent laws and legislation, to ensure that we reduce the adolescent pregnancies in our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, MP Alex. And I think what you mentioned, that initiative really is mentionable at this very forum, which was Hands Off Our Girls. It was an initiative by Sierra Leone that was started in 2018. It's a very powerful campaign that has done amazing wonders in Sierra Leone. The crime against women has reduced. You have seen, improvement happening around that with awareness, with education. And the complete legislation also provides for fast-track special courts. So this is something that must be taken, by policymakers across the world, that what are you doing when there is something happening against a teenager, or when there's crimes against teens? What's the resolution time? Are they able to report it? And if they report it, are you able to resolve it in the least amount of time possible? Because for a policymaker, when this topic comes at for education, legislation, judiciary, everything has to, work in tandem. Only then a policy could be formulated. Thank you so much, Honorable MP Alex, for sharing this with us. Let's now go back to the school leaders and, social work people. What do they think about the topic? Do they have some ideas that countries can implement? A very warm welcome to Mrs. Devi Nair, who's a consultant for Gubachi Learning Center from Bangalore, Karnataka, India. Ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome. Any ideas that you might have that could be used by policymakers to reduce teen pregnancies?
I was, before I started my journey in the NGO, I was heading a couple of schools in Bangalore, wherein there is this urban students were our target audience, where it was very easy to give sex education or reproductive health education. But like in most of the scenes in India, the sex education or health education, reproductive health education, sometimes loom around the topics of menstrual hygiene and health. I'm not saying that that is not the framework that we work on, but even the today's topic, which is again teenage pregnancy, I feel the need to reframe and a paradigm shift here. It is not teenage pregnancy, according to me. There is, when you say teenage pregnancy, we end up visioning a disheartened girl or a woman who has been wronged against. But where is the gender equity here? So we to bring in the gender equity, I think the male factor in all these things should be highlighted, giving the whole program a name change and a paradigm shift. You can give fancy names like adolescent program for adolescent parenthood or whatever. If you go to ChatGPT, they'll give you 101 names. So I'm not going there, but that attitude towards the whole scenario where a woman is the only one who is involved has to change first in the society and among students, especially the school going students. So when we talk about education, yes, education is happening. There are many organizations involved in allowing children to get informed decisions about their sex and their sex preference and so on. But the catch is today also, the statistics tell us that only 18% of sexually active girls use condoms. Okay, they are not using condoms as a data. So where are the vending machines? Where is the availability of these things for them? And inadvertently, if there is an instance of a girl being sexually abused, we have counselors in school. I think there's a need for a gynecologist, a person whom they can reach out to if they can't reach out to their parents. Whether it is a consensual sex with consent or sex without consent, if they don't want to be pregnant, there is no other way but to take the first measures in consultation with a doctor to find out what is to be done. So in all this, what is required is a transparency, right? Either the child should not be threatened by the feeling that they have had sex, or they gave consent to someone, or someone violated their privacy. Having said that, we are all talking about the branch level issues. The real issue is deep rooted, which is based on the identity formation in young adults. How much have education system supported young adults to form their identities? Do they know who they are? They model on things they unfortunately or fortunately, the social media has a big influence. I don't know about the situations in the countries here. I've not studied there, but in India, a Google search will give you a lot of influencers and a lot of wrong information. So where is the modeling? So there are a lot of other things I would talk about, but then thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Devi. And I think a very important point you mentioned, that when we talk of this topic in the form of teen pregnancies, it gives the impression that only the girl is involved. You're very right that we have to, say it out loud in very different terms. The sensitivity to language has to be maintained. But one of the reasons why we talk of teen pregnancies, and specifically why it translates into a girl, is nearly 90% of girls, if they get pregnant during their teenage, have to bear the financial brunt. The economic brunt comes on the lady or the girl. So a lot more care has to be taken when you are dealing with teenage girls, and a lot more education and policing has to be done around teenage boys. How do to typically build a trade-off, because you'll be putting them in the same atmosphere, they will be there in the same atmosphere. How do they, I think what Faith mentioned, are we really talking about relationships? Are we doing a conversation with them that they really need? They're not getting answers. That's why they go on an exploration spree where there is nobody to guide them. We can make a policy that we'll do sex education and we'll implement these laws into schools, but when we go at the ground level, a teenager does not get the safe space to talk about these things. When they don't get the safe space, that's where the challenge really comes, or that's where the challenge really finds its genesis. Let me go to the next speaker now. Let's listen to school leaders from different countries on what's the experience that they have with this specific subject on sex education. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Farida Gibril, the academic director for Wisdom International School from Cairo, El Rehab, Egypt. Ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Of course, here I'm a bit different because I'm in Egypt and it's a Muslim country. So sex education is quite challenging. I'm actually half British, half Sudanese. So in Britain, it's quite open-minded, but here in Egypt, it's very challenging. So the teen pregnancy we have is actually through marriage and in the countryside. We do have it also in the city, but it's a taboo and it's not discussed. So what we do in schools here is we try to discuss it through religion sessions. We try to, like break through that. So we have our religion teachers talking about how to be safe, how, like it's a very sensitive issue. What we do have is that in the government, what they do is that going into the countrysides right now, because there it's the children at the age of 11 and 12 get married. So what they have done right now is monitoring the children, and they have to have an ID. And if their parents are caught getting their children married, they are prosecuted. So that's how they're monitoring now. They are stressing on young girls getting educated. So this is what they're right now doing as a government, which is quite good. If, for example, there was lately now at a school, children were sexually abused, the person was hung. So there's severe rules now placed from the government as well as the Ministry of Education in regards to educating young ladies at the countrysides. So there is, like they're really challenging, they're facing challenges, of course, from the countryside, because there they have is that the young girls, they shouldn't be educated and they get married at the age of 10, 11, and they go to their husbands. In the schools in the cities, for example, in the main cities, we do have teenagers, but it's not spoken about. So it's left to us as educationists to talk about it. So we do use the biology session to talk about contraception. We talk with the counselors, they talk to girls about you are the ones who have the right to take the decision. We can't talk about boyfriend and girlfriend because it's a taboo. So we try as much as possible to educate the young ladies and the young boys to respect each other, because that's part of the religion and our culture here. So it is quite challenging, and there are pregnancies, but they're not mentioned. The girl will be taken away and we won't see her. It's not mentioned as well, but we would know. So it is a challenge here in the country. I'm not saying it isn't, but we do have to talk through religion. We do have to talk through biology sessions. We had one school I was at, not the current one. We talked about sex trafficking. We talked about empowerment. We got in trouble. We are not allowed to do that. We are policed by the education, what we are saying. So we have to do, we are constantly trying to break the barriers. So there are challenges, whether in any Arab country, how we are, but we do find ways. So these are the ways that we do. I don't know if that will help you in India, because I have a feeling you will have the same thing, most probably in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in a lot of Arab countries. They will be finding that. But this is, as an educationist, that's what we do, is take the biology session as a way of talking. Your social worker to do that. So these are the tips that I can give you, but it's very important because the young ladies and boys are facing, and boys can get away with, sorry to say, murder compared to young ladies, and they're the ones who take the brunt. So thank you very much. I hope I helped.
Thank you so much, Mr. Farida, for being so candid about the conversation. It's really important that people share their experiences, because unless we don't, share your experience, the believability of the conversation does not build up. For the policymakers who are there on this call, you can see what happens at the execution level. Even when people might have the right intent, they don't have the right kind of policy support. So it's very important as policymakers that when you look at this issue, you can see education as an enabler, but education cannot do instant transformation. It's a generational shift that might slowly occur with education, but for immediate solutions, you would need to use the power that people have vested in you. you have better judgment than us that how do you use it, but let's listen to other speakers, what are their thoughts on it. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mr. Mohammed Zahirul Islam, the Principal and Board Executive at Benchmark International School from Uttara, Dhaka, Bangladesh. Zahirul sir, over to you to share your thoughts on what's the scenario with this conversation, specifically around sex education and teen pregnancies in Bangladesh, and what are your suggestions for policymakers?
Thank you very much, the facilitator of this session, Lashkar and Blub, for having me in this very time-worthy topic and this session. I feel honored, and I'd like to also see all the global leaders, school leaders, and MPs from different countries. I feel privileged sharing this platform with them. This is Mohammed Zahirul Islam, Principal, Benchmark International School from Bangladesh. And today's topic is teenager pregnancies issues. So this is a very timely and sensitive issue, as already the speaker they talked about it. Yes. I would like to say about this topic in two ways I'd like to address. The first thing I'd like to address is that in this particular topic, there are two tiers. The first thing will be prevention is better than cure. Is something is very common saying. So in this measure for this problem, we need to look for some preventive measures. And definitely there are social issues, political issues, religious issues. There's lots of issues. So to address these issues, if we look for some preventive measures, what are we doing in Bangladesh? I can give you some examples. For example, already my one may match with Ms. Farida as whatever she said. So religious practices, religious rules, restrictions may play kind of preventive measures in terms of kind of controlling or stopping teenager pregnancy issues. And in our country, there are some institutions like Vikarunnesas or other schools. They are kind of putting some educational restrictions. For example, they're telling that if you want to complete higher secondary education in our institution, which is a kind of prestigious institution, you cannot, get married until you have completed your intermediate level. So there's a kind of educational restriction you're putting on the parents so that they don't pressurize, moving to that particular. So pregnancy issues, it even are not even uttered, where the marriage is kind of not allowed. Now, awareness campaign is something like that you are talking is a very, normal practices. Aldo talked about including that in the curriculum. It can be part of the curriculum. Through the curriculum, you can raise awareness. You have biology classes of the session, the other speaker that talked about. These are all kind of preventive measures that can be actually taken to, control or somehow neutral these teenager pregnancy issues. And other than this preventive measures here, there's another one. What happens? Despite all these measures, you have that kind of thing that the other speaker said. Yes, here the government can play a big role, and the legislatures and the country lawmakers, enforcement, they actually, when the action takes place, that yes, somehow the accident took place, then how you can neutral, how the teenagers can be given protection, how the families can given in a kind of security, and the girl are not defamed by the society for that particular thing, because she is not only responsible for that. Who are the other people? They should be taken to the law and enforcement very strictly. So all these things can be taken into the consideration for the after effect to neutral the effect of that unwanted teenager pregnancies. And country like us, Bangladesh, India, or maybe other kind of Muslim countries. So these are the things from my end that I'd like to share with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mohammed Zahirul Islam. And you're right that this could also be one of the ways that with all the universities, when a student is or a teenager is in school, their first target is to get into a good university. So it's one good way of saying that, if you are involved, if you get married, if there is a religious restriction in the country, and if you get married at an early age, a good university would not give you admission. So educational restriction could play a bit of a role in some of the societies. I'm not sure whether it'll work everywhere or not, but yes, this is something that could be replicated. And we all understand, when religion or beliefs come in, it becomes the problem typically finds a next level of complexity, and it becomes very difficult to address it. which policymakers also understand very well, because when you have a large mass of people having a common belief, you have to have your belief in that belief. Whether you think it's right or wrong is something that you don't have the objectivity for it. You just have to follow the way it's there in society. Thank you so much, Zahir Saab. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Dr. Krish Bhatt, who's a senior principal at NPS International School, Singapore. He's somebody who brings in a very varied experience of education, curriculums, countries. He understands international education very well. So you have seen the economically developed countries. The challenge there is completely different. In countries that don't have economic access, the challenge there is very different. What's your take on it? What are some of the ideas that you can give to policymakers? Over to you, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh. I'm going to give some statistics from New Zealand, where I come from, and also Singapore, where I work. In 2000, in New Zealand, the teen pregnancy was 34 for every 1,000, and in 2022, it reduced to 9. In Singapore, in 2000, the teenage pregnancy was around 24 for every 1,000. Currently, it is sitting at 4 for every 1,000. So, what these countries are doing, they are doing in 4 different steps. One is education. The government has put strict policies around both in New Zealand as well as in Singapore, and the schools have to follow these policies. In the sense, compulsory sex education from grade 7 all the way up to 10 or 11 or 12. In New Zealand, up to 12, but in Singapore, it's up to 10. Secondly, should there be a girl child getting pregnant, there is a counseling support for the child. It is a one-to-one counseling support in Singapore, again in New Zealand, and it becomes the responsibility of the school to provide that counseling for the child because she is already pregnant, but she needs support. So we have the support in terms of the healthcare, support in terms of the extra hour if she needs some rest, etc. Third, now what happens after the delivery? There are teen parent units in Singapore as well as in New Zealand. So in the teen parent units, we actually get this mother as well as the child. There's a free education for the mother, so we don't want her to repeat what has already happened. At the same time, free education for the child. And also, the government gives a lot of grants because we want to teach the mothers to get some education so that moving forward, she is able to care for the child, because in most of the cases there is no father per se, therefore everything comes on the child. And obviously, as a society, we will always have meetings with the mothers of the teenagers who got pregnant. We meet with the community leaders so that moving forward there should not be any issue with these children. Generally what happens, they could be branded by the others. Okay, she became pregnant, etc. So that education is also given for the society. And the last part, which I think is already touched by all the people, the contraceptives. We teach the children how to use contraceptives as well, because if at all somebody is getting into a situation there, they should know that they should not become pregnant. And lastly, one very important thing we also teach in the teen parent units is how to actually handle the babies, because these teenagers, they don't know how to handle the babies, how to hold the babies. So it's a compulsory module on how to hold the babies as well. So technically, in short, if you put everything together, it is education, support, counseling, and a safe space for them to have there and talk to somebody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krish. I think a very good 4 point structured format. You gave examples of 2 countries, New Zealand and Singapore as well, how they, I think dramatically changed the percentage of teen pregnancies within a decade or so, which is also impressive. For developed economies, it's easier, I would say, to some extent, because the society believes in a lot more in logic. But for a policymaker, I can understand it's a nightmare to speak something like this, where your electorate won't take it with open arms. You might face resistance. So even ideas that could work might not be speakable enough in a country or in an electorate that might not believe in the logic around it. So some very good suggestions. Thank you so much, sir. Let me now go to the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mr. Mohammed Yasin, who's an educator at Al Nahda National School for Boys, Abu Dhabi, UAE. He also brings experience from 2 different countries, Egypt and UAE. What are your thoughts, and what kind of experiments have you seen around, and suggestions for policymakers on reducing teen pregnancies? Over to you, sir. A very warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Um, as an educator, originally from Egypt and now serving in the United Arab of Emirates, um, I have worked across diverse educational settings and cultures and policy environments. Um, this journey has shaped my understanding uh, about the responsibility that the school carries. So let me take it from an educator's point of view. Um, we have three personal conventions that I would like to highlight. First of all, silence is never protection. And as working in Arab countries and Muslim countries, as Ms. Farida said a while ago, when schools avoid difficult topics, whether for cultural or social reasons, students seek information elsewhere. They're often inaccurately or unsafely guided. Empathy must be a policy, not just feeling. Policies that ensure re-entry. Let me say something here. I have noticed that through our discussion, we are focusing on prevention, but we need to also think about policies that ensure re-entry and anti-stigma and learner support transforms life. Compassion becomes real when it's systematized. Partnership matters. Schools cannot do this alone. And collaboration between educators, families, health providers, policymakers, this is very essential. Just on a short note, whether it is in India or in Egypt or here in Emirate, the idea is the same. We have to protect our children. Policymakers in all countries, they need to work for the children, for the teenagers, not against them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Guber. And we do understand, the kind of limitations that are there in a lot of Arabic countries, and in a lot of, I would not typically, try to brand them in a certain way, but yes, I understand the kind of stigma that is around this conversation that's there in a lot of countries. It's very difficult to put in a logical solution to it and, say, okay, this will work from tomorrow. This won't happen. But we will have to pace it up now, because with the advent of information, what you mentioned about when they don't get the right replies from their teacher, from their education ecosystem, they go elsewhere. Now that elsewhere is even more irresponsible, because that's the social media. It was humans before this, it was friends, it was family. Now it's the whole wide world that cares nothing about you. And what you said, that empathy has to be systematized. You will have to be compassionate. I don't know whether policies and laws can really do that, but if they can, we'll listen to the policymakers that can you really make empathy a legislation? Can you make sure that people are compassionate? And they talk of re-entry as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Guber. Let's now move to the next speaker. Very warm welcome to Ms. Shreyasi Das, who's a school director and principal of Budapest British International Academy from Budapest, Hungary. Ma'am, over to you. What are your thoughts on the topic and what you see in your policy framework? What's happening in your country? Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is a privilege to be here among members of parliament, education leaders, and colleagues from around the world. I'm really grateful to the dignitaries and to the organizers for creating this platform where we can actually reflect together on how to better support our young people. Drawing from the insights shared by our distinguished speakers, I would like to summarize a bit about the approaches that actually created measurable impact and explore what schools can implement immediately to support our young people more effectively. If we see country-wide strategies that actually work, like ma'am said, in Netherlands, we have open and age-appropriate conversation that begins early, helping children understand safety, consent, emotions, and respect. Similarly, Sweden, if we see, it blends a strong welfare system with young clinics, counselors, nurses, and relationship education. In Japan, we see health and moral education takes the main part. For example, South Korea shows the impact of close parent school partnership, regular workshops, structured academics, after school programs. If we take an example of Canada, that offers an inclusive, culturally aware model that embraces says indigenous, immigrant, rural, and urban youth. The United Kingdom strengthens its approach with mandatory relationship education, comprehensive youth services. Now, across all these examples, if we see, one clear and universal pattern emerges. And that is like schools must focus on life navigation, not just information through either through role plays, scenarios, problem solvings, and digital awareness. Every young person at least need one trusted adult like an educator like us, someone who checks in, listens, and provides that emotional safety. Teachers need training in emotional literacy so that they can respond with calm, compassion, and clarity when students face difficult situations. We must also build a culture of aspiration. Promoting gender equality is essential. Teaching boys empathy and respect while giving girls opportunity to lead, explore, and excel. And finally, I would like to touch on that progress requires strong partnership between school, parents, communities, working together to support vulnerable students early and consistently. Let me close with this. Around the world, the countries that succeeded choose conversation over silence, support over stigma, and education over fear. When these young people are treated with trust and dignity, they consistently rise to meet those expectations. And I'm sure if we followed this shared pattern, we will not only improve well being, but we will definitely raise a generation of confident, responsible, and emotional, healthy young adults. So, as per if I take the school where I am working, we create like we have around 56 nationalities of students over here. So mainly what we try to focus on, we discuss these topics as informed by all our other dignitaries over here, that in our class sessions we do have these head boys and head girls where we talk with them separately, and after school clubs we have where we talk openly, even in the coffee sessions with parents.
Thank you so much, Tracy, ma'am. The first 3 minutes over, but we'll try to come back to you. People opened up about how they look at sex education, how they look at reducing teen pregnancies, how different societies look at it. What are the different stakeholders? What are the factors that influence decision making? I would just like to quote a simple experiment that Jamaica did, a country with not a lot of economic stability, but they did a very successful experiment in reducing teen pregnancies. They worked towards prevention of it for sure, but they made a very good re-entry mechanism. They gave 100% financial, economic, residential support to teen mothers, and they brought them back to the system. They gave them employment, and that reduced their teen pregnancies dramatically. So economic growth is one of the factors that would reduce teen pregnancies. Education would do that. But at the same time, you will have to stand, supporting the current teen mothers, because that's the way that message will generationally percolate. That if something bad happened, the government was there with us and they took care of us. So, how did this complete conversation go? Was it meaningful? And what more can be talked about? Because now it's the time for open floor. But let's go back to the Honorable MP Angel Khanyile. That what are her takeaways? What would she want to put forth in this conversation, or how this conversation really meant for her? Was it meaningful enough? Was it something that she wanted to do? Or what all points would she like to take back to her policy table? Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you very much. I am grateful for this opportunity, and I'd like to appreciate all the distinguished guests that have spoken today. I think there was a lot of things to take home in terms of number one, economic development. Number two, I think we need to have more education with our young people and ensure. I think there's one speaker that spoke about collaboration between the schools, the families, and the policymakers as well. I think those are some of the things that we're going to have to look at, though I am aware that there is some education that is taking place within our schools. I serve in a portfolio of women, youth, and persons with disabilities, and it interlinks with a number of portfolios within our country because we are monitoring. So when we go back to Parliament next year, I will request that we have a joint meeting with the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education so that we can try and check what exactly these young people are being taught, if there's any collaboration with the families as well as policymakers. I think we need to have a more collaborative effort. And with that being said, I'm really not sure if it's possible through your office to get some documentation that we can look at, even if it's a summary of what was done by Sierra Leone, Netherlands, I think Singapore and New Zealand. Because when I was listening to their presentation, they also reflect that there is a reduction in terms of their teenage pregnancy. So if they do not have a problem, I'll truly appreciate to see exactly what they have on their documentation so that we can see how we can best assist our learners. Because I think they also brought in the issue of gender equality. I can't remember, I think it was Bangladesh speaker that also indicated, you also, when you were making your summary, indicated that a lot of burden is left with the women because they are the ones that bear kids. And you will also remember, once a woman falls pregnant or a teenager falls pregnant, most of the time, a boy child, if is involved, they will run away from the responsibility, fearing what their parents will say. And the girls don't have that opportunity because this life will have to grow within their bodies. So I think more needs to be done in terms of ensuring that prevention is reiterated on and amplified on. And once again, I truly appreciate this opportunity. And I truly appreciate all the contributions. They were very, very helpful. And these are exactly the thoughts that I will take back to my colleagues and to our committee. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Honorable MP Angel Khanyile. We'll try to put together the complete conversation into a document and send it over to you for your assistance. All the school leaders, all the policymakers who are there on this call, we wanted to create a teen cohort as well on this issue. But before we did that, we actually wanted to consult school leaders that how can we do it? Can teenagers really solve this problem on their own? Because they'll be ready to talk to each other. They are each other's safe space. Can we equip them in a way that they do this conversation responsibly? Because that's the core purpose that we are trying to achieve with all of this. So I would, request all of you, if you have some ideas around this, if you have some teens around this who would be happy to have a conversation, and most importantly, whose parents and whose society allow them the independence and freedom to have this conversation, I would request you that if it is possible, we at the World Teen Parliament would want to build a teen cohort around this as well, so that more ideas could come together and we could, share more with policymakers. And we hope we have a far more safe future for our kids. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this conversation. This was the Blubber Lab Talks 275th episode. Before we end, I think Faith has just raised her hand. She wants to say something. Faith, over to you. Please unmute yourself. If anyone wants to add something, you can just raise your hand and I'll invite you next.
Thank you so much for giving me the word. No, I have a last commentary for Mrs. Khanyile. I can send you some stuff that we use in the Netherlands to educate the people, the children. So that is what I wanted to share. So I will send it through you, and you can share it with the Honorable Miss Khanyile. So maybe that can help her in her country to develop stuff to teach the children.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Faith. And I think even Miss Angel will appreciate that. I think Abha wants to say something. Abhaji, please unmute yourself for a minute. We'll have to move towards conclusion. You can unmute yourself, please.
I just want to add one more point that all the countries should also focus on what content is coming on social media. Because right now, so our teens are very much influenced with the content coming on social media. So if some policies can be, framed to restrict the content, that will be a great help for to control this thing.
Content restrictions could really help. Farida, I'm over to you for a minute, but you also want to add something?
I just want to say I totally agree that we have to focus on education for both male and for boys and girls. And it's very important to listen to them because sometimes listening to them that can help even for the teenagers that are in the Arab world because they do tend to listen to social media. So if you can do a platform or a meeting where we have that, that's also beneficial for our parents here in the Arab world so that they can listen to them. So because it's peer learning for our parents. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And we'll try to have, take your ideas and build something around this as well, where parent conversations happen, because at the end of the day, the parent is the real change maker who can accelerate the process. So, Devi ma'am wants to add something. Ma'am, over to you for a minute before we conclude the session. You'll have to unmute yourself. Yes.
Sorry. Thank you for that 1 minute. What I would like to really address is a point that you raised regarding involving teenagers. I think many of the India government programs have these programs where the teenagers are involved in conversation with each other and modeling for each other. In that, what I would like to, as a teachers, for the teachers, I would say that there are two subjects in our courses which is not touched upon later. That is the philosophy and psychology of education. So there are excellent content on how adolescents build up their image, their identity, how they can relate to work, but that aspect is not touched with teachers. So when we talk about all the stakeholders, parents, I think all our teachers need to be empowered to handle such things with kindness, empathy, love, care, than thinking that having sex is the worst thing that happened to a girl, right? So that when that attitudinal shift is very important in education, I feel.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would thank all the speakers for today for taking out the time and being here for this conversation. You have given some amazing ideas. I would request, if you have the time, if you could just jot down your ideas, share with us. We'll try to build a comprehensive document and share with the Honorable MP Angel Khanyile and with all of you as well, so that you can also take those ideas and see what can be done within your policy frameworks. We'll try to have more such conversations ahead at the Blub World and the World Teen Parliament Forum. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this conversation. This was the Blub World Talks 275th episode. I am Daksh, signing off. Thank you so much, everyone. Namaste. Have an amazing day or an evening ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.